Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Power Zone. If you guys are coming back and it's been a while, you haven't been to the channel in a minute, let me welcome you to the new rebrand. We're getting to a point to where we are going to fully change things over, but Don and I are merging channels together. And so I see you, Shane Haley. It's been a while, been a minute, bro. Thanks for showing up today. But so yeah, we're changing things. No more Own the Chaos. We're going to be moving some things into a new channel called the Power Zone. It's going to be still living here under this roof, so to speak. But nevertheless, appreciate you tuning in. Listen, big day today. We got reactions that we have to get to on Tesla and as well as IBM. Las Vegas Sands also reports today. A couple other smaller stocks will be reporting after hours, but obviously Tesla being the big one. Don is behind the scenes right now. He'll be coming on in just a few moments. So for those of you who are watching on Don's channel currently, just bear with me. We're going to be talking about all things Tesla, and Don will be here too. So look, I got a poll in my channel here, or our channel, our soon to be channel, and asked just a simple question. Not nothing too crazy, just simply today Tesla stock will. So far, 31% of you guys are tuning in, are engaging with the poll and say that it's going to blast off, and 60% of you are bearish on Tesla this afternoon. My goodness. Pretty crazy. What's up, Snookeroo? Good to see you, Lord Fenrir. Happy to have all of you guys here. What's up, Kevin Hawthorne? I mean, some of the faithful that have just always shown up over the years. Housekeeping, Michael, good to see you guys as well. Buzz Jones, I got you. But thanks so much for tuning in. Look, it's gonna be a big game. Channel name is Power Zone Trading. Some of the guys on Don's channel couldn't find it because they were looking for the Power Zone. Oh yeah. And you know what I've noticed too, Lord Fenrir, if you actually search Own the Chaos, it still shows up. I guess because it was formerly Own the Chaos, obviously. And there's so many Own the Chaos videos. As we continue to build things out, the newer videos are going to push those Own the Chaos videos down. So, eventually it'll start showing up in search. It's just how it goes, but it's all good. Buzz, yeah, it's been a while, man. Been a while for sure. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at Tesla's stock right now and just kind of see how it's performing in real time. I got the 5-minute chart pulled up just to kind of see how it's reacting here. Reacting here right now, currently. And there we go. That's what I wanted. Perfect. So as you can see, kind of a down day, lots of uncertainty. It seems like just in today's trading alone. We take a look at the daily chart. Oops, the daily chart, and obviously hasn't been great here either. So interesting to see where this actually takes us after these earnings. If you guys haven't looked at all about what the expectations are, Wall Street expects Tesla to report earnings per share 74 cents for Q4, a notable decline from last year's $1.19 per share. So bar's getting set a little bit lower. So I think that there's potential for this to actually move to the upside because of that. Especially if they come in and surprise to the upside, I think that there is some, we could see this move up, but they come in below that 74 cents per share. Watch out. Tesla will get wrecked. Revenue forecast, despite the earnings per share dip, revenue is predicted to grow, reaching $25.57 billion, up from a 19.6% in last year's figure. Full year performance for the entire year, Tesla's earnings are expected to fall by 22% to $315 per share, but total revenue is projected to rise substantially by almost 20%. That would be $97.41 billion for the year. That is an insane number. So there's some, mixed opinions on this, right? Like, we're seeing a decline in earnings. So profitability, revenue forecasts, though, are going up. And part of it is because of obviously the lowering the price of vehicles in general, which means that their profit margins are going to be smaller. So that's obviously going to play a factor, and kind of one of the big reasons why we're seeing that decline in earnings per share. But the growth is still very much there. And I think that that's ultimately what's going to move this stock in particular. Uh, Key points to watch here: sales boost versus profit margins. As I was just kind of alluding to, Tesla's price cuts have driven sales and vehicle registrations to record highs, but they've also pressured profit margins. And this dynamic is a critical aspect to watch in the earnings report. If they start to get closer and closer to profit margins of that of a GM or Ford, that's not going to bode well for Tesla. And a lot of Tesla bulls, a lot of investors will be like, well, Tesla isn't just cars. Correct. But right now it is. Right now that is their bread and butter. Until their AI leg or their AI arm or their solar arm or any of those other ones start to take over car sales, this is what's going to be talked about. So I understand for those of you who are want to kind of like um talk about, well, it's not just about cars. I understand that, but for the here and now, it is. So the other thing is the focus on high margin services. Tesla continues to bet on its full self-driving software and other high margin services, aiming to boost profitability. We've seen this from tons of tech companies, right? Apple's a perfect example of that. Yeah, they sell a phone, the iPhone. They don't really make money off of, relatively speaking, to their services, right? They make money off of their iPhone. They make money off their hardware. Make no mistake about it. I believe they make around 45% on all of their hardware on average. So their MacBooks they're making money off of, but their true cash cow is services. And so I think that's ultimately where Tesla's headed here. So that's going to be an area that we're going to have to keep an eye on. Strong fundamentals despite recent stock price dips. Tesla's robust cash flow, brand loyalty, and marketing position to keep it strong, keep it a strong contender in the EV space. Again, going to be a spot to watch. But I think the margins is really where it's at. That's what's going to influence the stock the most, I think. So if those margin numbers come in and they're not what investors are hoping for, what the street's looking for, watch for this one to not have a great day. But so far right now, it looks as though, people are selling this off. Lots of times this could be a contrarian type of indicator. I've seen this so many times. We see this like lack of confidence going into earnings day, into after hours. People just freak out and they sell it all off, and then all of a sudden it just blasts off. I'm not saying that's going to happen today, but could very well happen. It happens so often. You almost kind of want to take a shot at this and go long on Tesla today for those reasons. But nevertheless, as you can see, it's also coming down to test this 206 area, which is top of this zone here. So that's also a spot that is worth watching. Let's see if it gets down to that before the close. Could lend itself for a potential opportunity there as well. So liking that a lot. Obviously, you guys just saw Don pop in. So, Don, initial thoughts on Tesla and what we're doing, which way we're going to be going here after earnings.
Hopefully, not down a lot.
Yeah.
If anyone was watching in the comments just a couple minutes ago, I posted I just sold a 197.50 put, which is a bullish play. I told you I was going to do it yesterday. Sold one earlier for $300. Sold another one for $355. So as long as it stays above that by this Friday, then I get a free $650. I went that way because I do think a lot of the red has been either priced in or expected. Earnings are such a dud for Tesla, because usually the earnings move everyone talks about is usually on deliveries. You can kind of almost get everything else other than margins is kind of what's left. Then, I guess guidance talking about the next quarter.
Yeah.
I think it'd be easier to surprise to the upside. But because it almost like does nothing, I chose to just sell puts to go bullish as opposed to just like buying calls or adding on more shares. If it gets below that, then I'll own, like I talked about yesterday, I'll own shares at 197.50. I plan on buying more at 180 if it were to get that route, get that low. Below that, I'd have to just kind of wait and see what plays out.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about this yesterday. We alluded to kind of what we were looking at yesterday as far as some pretty big bullish bets going on here with Tesla, and yesterday's live stream, kind of prepping for today. So Interesting, to say the least. Obviously, we're going to be reacting to this as we get into the close and when they finally do report. But Tesla isn't the only one that's reporting earnings today. IBM is also on the docket here as far as earnings are concerned. This is an interesting one too. Came right down here to the top of the zone here at 173 and hasn't looked back. Of course, anything can change once this this report comes out, but would have been a nice little day trade on that if you guys take a look at take a look at this. Is this a trade that you actually made, Don? No.
Yeah, I'm bullish IBM.
Yeah. Okay. So you did make a trade on this.
I bought shares. This is actually just green is a monthly zone. Only a couple charts actually have it.
I was going to say I don't know if I've seen that before.
Yeah, it wasn't until I had honestly. If you ask me, you have to ask my group. If people that are in the chat could probably answer this, they know about when I bought it. I would have thought these guys were fossils, and just
everybody does, right?
Yeah, I was waiting for them to just wither away. Turns out they're going to be pretty big in the AI space. They're attacking that next. So I did buy some shares. Now, regardless of earnings, I will still be in these shares. It's not necessarily a trade as much as I'm trying to cast a pretty decent net on the AI, what I think could be AI giants, not the companies that are going to use AI to make things better, you know, but the ones that are going to be the main players.
It's had a massive move since their last earnings. Going all the way down here, really closed the day last earnings around 136 and just has been on an absolute tear since October. A lot of tech has been, but I mean, for IBM, for those of you guys don't know, IBM usually doesn't make moves like this because it's been around forever. And as Don kind of alluded to, kind of a dinosaur. It was the largest. It was the biggest stock by market cap pre.com bubble. So IBM was huge. And so looking at it here, this is a really unusual type of move for IBM. This is something that you would see normally on, oh my God, what, Facebook or something like that, right? Like we've seen that, but just to see IBM move like this, a lot of investors are buying into the AI portion of this. And to be honest with you, IBM Watson was kind of like the early days of that. So it shouldn't come as much of a surprise that IBM is in this space, and they've been in this space a lot longer than anybody even heard the word artificial intelligence. So I agree with you. I think this is actually a really good long play if you're looking for this to be a long-term investment. Obviously, they have dividends too. So if you're looking for a little bit of income, they have that as well. But for the long term, IBM looks like it could do well. Expected earnings per share on this are $3.80, $17.28 billion in revenue as the market has officially closed. 9 upward revisions to 5 down. So, I mean, it seems as if IBM could come in here and have another monster quarter, all surrounding around AI.
Yeah, I hope they do. I hope I hope they just send it. You said it was of no surprise. It was definitely a surprise to me. This ended up being a whole conversation in the midship group one night, and it kind of changed everything. And
but did it kind of click with you when did anybody bring up like IBM Watson? You're like, oh shit, that's right. Like that was like their version of ChatGPT, and that was 5 years ago. 10 years ago.
I even totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
I know very little about that, actually. I just didn't realize some of I guess I gotta be careful. He was very cautious of what he could say as well, just because of.
Who's that?
I can't even say.
Oh.
He's in the space, so I'll put it that way. So I don't want to I want to make sure I'm not saying anything that could jeopardize anything. But just being in the space and everything, and kind of telling us what's going on, I thought was a very surprising thing. But I bet they're probably, I think, as it stands right now, I think they're going to surprise a lot of people as far as I think they're making a comeback, and time will tell. But Mike says I can talk about it. I don't work for IBM.
Well, I was just doing a quick search here. Watson was initially developed to answer questions. I remember this, but it feels like it wasn't that long ago, but I guess it was. Watson was initially developed to answer questions from the quiz show Jeopardy, and in 2011, it competed against champions Brad Rudder and Ken Jennings, winning the first place prize of $1 million. So that was kind of like, I guess, the first introduction of Watson was 2011. So we're talking 13 years ago, which is crazy that's been around for that long. And they've been in this space. They've been working on AI for a long time. I mean, a lot of other people have, but yeah, IBM definitely in the space. You can kind of start to see a little bit of movement here. I'm not ready to call those earnings numbers out just yet, but looks like we have a little bit of movement here on IBM as we are officially in the close. Checking back in with Tesla.
Nothing. I think the algo's trying to troll us.
Yeah, not much going on there. Obviously, just kind of flat. We'll see what happens. Lastly, Las Vegas Sands also reporting earnings today. Stock looked like it jumped, and then maybe this is just some after hours BS.
That's some very low volume stuff.
But the gaming space has also done really well since last year. Obviously, with Macau coming back and China really opening back up, that certainly helped companies like this one that were highly exposed to Macau. Caesars and Las Vegas Sands, a lot of other ones that were highly exposed to this have finally come back. And so this one's expected to come in at 61 cents per share, $2.88 billion in revenue. Lots of downward revisions on this. I'm wondering what to make of these earnings as they come in and see what demand is actually like, because as I've mentioned before, I think that in gaming and really travel and experiences are still pretty high in demand. We've seen that really huge drop off on non-discretionary items. We've heard from Walmart and Target about that, but when it comes to experiences, people are still out there spending money on that. We'll see what happens and see what Las Vegas Sands has to say. But yeah, this one's just still flat.
Yeah, well, Tesla's got the auction going. I've been watching this candle up on my charts go from green to red. I'm watching the chat say Tesla's shooting up, Tesla's moving, Tesla's down. It's bouncing all around. I wonder if there's any volume behind this. It's kind of bouncing around like low volume after hour stuff. But it'll be interesting to see if it breaks today's high or that blue zone.
Yeah.
Those are kind of like my numbers to watch out for. If it breaks that blue zone, I bet we're coming on down to the yellow. Blue again, if anybody watching, blue is kind of an hourly, so I call those speed bump zones. Typically, I'm thinking the yellow 4-hour daily candle. I want it to go yellow to yellow. Blue is where I would expect any kind of hiccups if there was a reversal somewhere around there.
Yeah, it looks like Tesla's numbers are out actually. They came in and missed across the board. Revenue came in at $25.17 billion. The estimate there was at 25.87. They came in at 71 cents per share. The estimate there was at 74. You guys might recall at the top of the show, I was talking about that, how it was already projected to be in far below what last year's numbers were, and it's even lower than those expectations. So I was under the assumption that bar was set pretty low at 74 cents, but looks like they came in even lower than that. Total gross margin 17.6% versus the 18.1% that was expected. So gross margins, as we talked about, was going to be a factor here, and it looks like finally people are kind of looking at these numbers and digesting them, and Tesla is actually continuing to sink down here, now down around 5% after hours.
Now the moment of truth.
Yeah, so we're tell the people, man, we're looking at this. It's just started to break into the zone. So
and back out.
Explain to the folks what's happening here.
In theory, those yellow zones are typically where the opposing force would be. Since we're checking it from the top, we would be looking for buyers around this level. Hence the reason, like, we got in there and it pops back up. Any leftover limit order fills or anything like that, you'll see it hit that zone, pop back up. It's all kind of relative to be doing it in minutes, but what you wouldn't want to see is hit that zone. You were right. The buyers are there, pops back up, and then we're all of a sudden back down. And that was an interesting flash to a green candle. That was weird. But anyway, what we just saw, did that show up on your end? That showed up on my monitor.
I'm busy looking at some other stuff.
Okay. Anybody else see the candle turn green for a second? Looks like somebody's order filled. Yeah. So anyway, that's what we'd be looking for. If I was looking to go long, this is where I would be doing. If I was going to take a trade, this wouldn't be investing. This would be trading. This is where I take my entries, stuff like that. So someone just got filled in my chat at 198.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, gross profit margin 17.6% versus the 18.1 that was expected. That's far below what last quarter came in at 19.81%. So those gross margins are coming down significantly. You got to wonder, Don, and just getting away from the charts for a second and just talking about Tesla in general, because you and I are such big believers of Tesla as a company. um at what point, and I kind of talked about this, I don't know if you were listening in when I was talking about this, but like, at what point are investors going to look at this and be like, hey, profit margins on vehicles are getting that to that of a Ford or that of a GM? Is there any sort of concern for you in general on, because like gross profit margins for Ford is at 10.5%, obviously nowhere so Tesla's still well above that. Looking at GM, their gross profit margins are at 12.5, so not that far. I mean, it's still a decent gap, but not that far between GM and Tesla on gross profit. So is there going to be this narrative that investors will look at Tesla, especially because vehicles are still their bread and butter? The diehard Tesla fan, Elon fanboy is going to be like, well, Tesla's more than just cars. But right now, that is all Tesla is. Yes, they have
Right.
other things coming down the line, but what's making them money right now is vehicle sales. And the services side, of course, when it comes to full self-driving, could be a factor here, but it doesn't look like that's the case yet. So not great, and I would imagine the outlook here isn't going to be great either.
So as far as that goes, there's a lot of investors that are buying it for the pipeline, and as long as I think that action is moving and working in that direction, I think it's fine. Because right now it is a car company. I hate when people call it a car company or compare it to Toyota, because I think that's just stupid. There's too
Yeah.
much tech involved in Tesla to even kind of have that. But there is the argument of, yeah, right now the one thing they have is cars, and what if full self-driving is just like the Roadster, or the Tesla
Right.
that I ordered, the one that they just deleted and said, we're not going to make that, just JK.
Yeah.
And I think that's when that ball gets dropped hard. For instance, that tweet the other day, that made me mad when he talked about moving his robotics or AI to another company. We don't need another SpaceX. The reason people are in Tesla is because of all the other robotics. I don't know who's
Right.
buying the auto industry. Like Tesla's cool, but they make cars that change, once a decade. As far as the car thing goes, they're cool, but you couldn't tell me the difference between I guess that they changed to the 21. But before that, you could have bought a Model X and said it's 10 years old or 10 days old. There's no changes in there.
Right.
So they're not that impressive other than the electric side, for performance standards.
Right, and you actually look at, it's interesting that you brought up Toyota, because Toyota's profit margins are now, in fact, higher than Tesla's are at 19.14%. And we look at the valuation of Toyota, obviously far below where Tesla is, sitting at $271 billion. Tesla is $1 trillion company. So kind of crazy to see that, and I totally get what you're saying as far as when Elon starts talking about getting rid of or taking some of the arms, especially what he calls startups, dozens of startups within Tesla. You start taking some of those startups away, and those are reasons why people bought Tesla in the first place, not just because of vehicles, but for everything else. I mean, we've heard a lot of other, like Kathy Wood types talking about how there's so much more involved with Tesla that's going to bring their valuation to a certain point. And we've heard some outlandish numbers, obviously, but like right now, the only tangible thing that Tesla has is vehicles. They're not selling anything else. And don't get me started on the solar stuff, because they're losing money hand over fist on that. So that's not going to be anything either. So it is tough to kind of see, but hey, man, these yellow boxes looks like they're going to work.
I don't know what to say when people say that. I'm like, yeah, like it's always awkward. Like, oh, look, they did bounce in that box. Oh, yeah. Again, that's just where buyers are, and so it's done a good job. What we wouldn't want to see is, coming right back down, because at that point, right now we've likely filled quite a few buyers. We don't know how many buyers are left, but each time we knock on that door, you just run the risk of kicking it in.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So between the two of us, we got about 172 of you guys watching. We thanks for that. If you're over at Don's channel, we are in the midst of merging channels together. Everybody's going to come over to Power Zone Trading. If you haven't checked it out, it is formerly known as Own the Chaos. Basically, just took my channel and we're kind of bringing everybody over all under one roof. Just made total sense, especially with what Don and I have going on behind the scenes and what we're building back there. So super pumped about that. But so if you guys are wanting to know what's going on, that's what's happening. That's why we're simulcasting together, and why Don's been creating content here on my channel as well. It's all going to be our channel, and so therefore Don's going to be creating content. I'm going to be creating content on here. It's all going to be a group effort. So if you guys want to be a part of the journey with us, make sure you're coming over here, hitting that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. We'll be going live again tomorrow on and react to some more earnings. Got another couple big players tomorrow. We'll get into that. But IBM also is supposed to be reporting earnings today.
Just switched to IBM.
Yeah, and it just popped off. It's up 5.25%. Kind of what we expected to see happen, Don.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm just glad I bought it. You know, I made more money.
Yeah, so it looks like they came in earnings per share of $3.87, which is 10 cents better than expected at $3.77. Revenue for the quarter came in at $17.38 billion versus the consensus estimate of $17.3. So quite the opposite of Tesla's earnings here. As far as expectations are concerned, looks like they kind of blew expectations out of the water. Software revenue $7.51 billion. That's up 3.1% year over year, which is great for a company that's been around as long as IBM. The estimate there was 7.69. Consulting segment revenue came in at 5.05 billion. Expectation there was at 5.1. So the real big winner here was kind of everything else. I think that IBM in general, and I'm going to dig into these earnings a little bit more, but those are your preliminary numbers. So far, it is popping off. And I mean, going back to the daily chart, this is significant move for IBM just to be up 4% right now.
Yeah, it's not the biggest mover.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is more or less the technology version of Johnson & Johnson. So imagine Johnson & Johnson making these types of moves. It's unheard of. So what a wild time to be in IBM.
Wish would have bought it sooner though.
Here's your 5-minute chart, just going back so you can kind of see the real-time action on this. But quite a decent boner candle for IBM. Don, why don't you go ahead and break this down a little bit? I know that you had talked about how this is more of a longer-term play for you, but is there a decent trade to be made on here for IBM? Break it down a little bit on as far as the charts are concerned there.
So zoom out real quick. You're gonna probably go to the daily.
Okay.
And this is where, you should see what I'm talking about. Keep squeeze them.
This way.
The other way. Let's see the pass. Keep going. Almost there.
Okay.
Keep it going. We're almost there. I promise. Almost. There we go.
2017. Okay, so we're going all the way back there.
Yeah. So this is the last time we were here, and just breaking above that could mean a lot for a lot of people that were watching this. You know, like anything below that, it was just kind of just sticking with that range. We started to work our way up, but did it beat some of the previous real serious levels? And now that we just did, I think that's a sign of more serious players or more buyers, people that can move the market are in. As far as the trade goes, I'm breaking it down on the daily right now to see if I wanted to trade it, because that's a month. So as far as the daily time frame, oh shoot, hang on. Am I still here? Can you still hear me?
Yep.
I was in the wrong window, hitting hotkey buttons, and it
Listen, apparently that's what happened to me yesterday. So
all right, so let's add in, it might update on, there we go. So that was the daily zone to break, and then right up here would be the next one. Which we literally just went zone to zone. We got just shy of that yellow box. And if you scroll back just a little bit, you'll see where I started each zone, where I found each one. I don't just draw it just because we just popped up there.
Right,
But
right.
that like horizontal channel back there, it was comfortably in for a while before it broke down. So now the next big move will be getting above that 188 mark. Do we finally break out of this? Do we kind of create a little box we stay inside for a while? Characteristically, this thing does go sideways for a bit.
I think that would be the healthy thing for IBM. And it's kind of one of those things where we've talked about this. I mean, remember the conversation we had about AI, and there's all this talk about an AI bubble. I mean, and we're talking March, April. I think we talked about this briefly on how everybody was concerned about how AI was in this bubble, and you and I were pretty emphatic on this isn't even close to a bubble, especially with what's capable from an AI standpoint. So I think it's still very much in the early stages, but it would be healthy for some a company like IBM to not get so crazy and get too ahead of itself. But you can't be mad at the move here.
Yeah. Yeah. As far as a trade goes, this is a big move for IBM. There's usually a lot of other things I'd rather trade
Yeah,
just for volatility purposes. This is a dividend ticker, so you're not going to see a lot of volatility out of this one. By the time they announce a dividend, they're almost saying like, "Hey, this is it, but we'll give you some kickback for being in our company." We're not really growing much more. This might be one of the unique ones where you're going to get some future growth out of it, though, if they really take off in the AI space.
yeah.
So you might get a little bit of both.
Right. I mean, when you consider that revenue year-over-year growth before today was at 1.05%. That was basically what they've been doing for a decade or better. Revenue this quarter was 4.1% better year over year. That's significant.
Yeah.
Really significant.
Yeah, I think I think that's going to be a unique one where you get the dividend with growth. As far as a trade goes, I'd still wait for a pullback to enter. You still need a plan, and I'd say right now there's just not enough meat on the bones, because I'd be worried about the 185, 187 mark as a pullback. I wouldn't want to go short there, but no way would I want to buy it at 183 to make $2 on it. My
Right.
stop would barely be in the green.
Yeah, exactly. So this would be one that wouldn't want to chase it. Just kind of give it some time, see if there's any sort of profit that comes in. And here's the thing, guys. I know it's really easy to just sit back here, especially if you're not in it or not trading it, not interested in trading it, to be like, oh, we'll just wait. Because if you were really wanted to get into it, you have this FOMO that's kicking in. But I'm telling you, like if that FOMO kicks in and it just does keep running, there's got to come a point in time where you're just like, you know what, I missed the trade. There's 4,000 plus odd more tickers out there that I could trade. So like there's going to be more opportunities. You just happen to miss this one. It's not really the end of the world. But at the end of the day, I mean, IBM having a great earnings reaction.
Yeah. And for those that want to buy it, swing it for a longer term, but maybe you think you missed it, maybe you want to catch the dip buy. An example I use, like, let's say I want to buy 10 shares and you just have to scratch that itch right now. I still have my stop loss would be below that yellow zone. I'd probably put it at 169.45. That's where my stop loss would be at. So if I'm looking to buy 10 shares, that's gonna be my whole position. I think we're good. I'd grab 2 or 3 now, and then at least that way, if it goes up, hey, I got something. I got some kind of skin in the game. Maybe we can attack it later with a higher low. But if it pulls back, cool. I want that, and then you can just tack on the other 7 shares later, and it really kind of gets you the best of both worlds, where you're not just throwing out the bank by jumping in now, chasing it, making an emotional decision, and then losing all your money. Because you do that, it will pull back. You'll make the decision to sell, because all of a sudden your brain will switch gears and think this thing's not going to stop selling off. And then you end up emotionally selling at the bottom, where someone like me is just buying all your shares. And then it will turn around, and then you'll probably buy the next peak, because people love to repeat themselves.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of people
creatures
do.
of habit, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Checking out, I just want to touch back in with Tesla. It looks like it's kind of sort of trying to bounce. We'll come back and readdress this one. But Las Vegas Sands also reported earnings today. as I'd mentioned earlier in the show, and they're also looking like they're having a pretty decent reaction to earnings. Just wanted to run those numbers by you, guys, in case you were interested. Las Vegas Sands earnings per share, they missed by 4 cents. They came in at 57 cents. Revenue of 2.92 billion. They beat those expectations by 40 million. So revenues up, missed on earnings per share. Consolidated adjusted property EBITDA reached 1.2 billion. Macau, as I had mentioned, was kind of like the topic of discussion for Las Vegas Sands. Their adjusted property EBITDA of 654 million. Low hold rolling play in Macau negatively impacted adjusted property by 40 million. So not as bad as expected. So not great, but not as bad as expected. Marina Bay Sands adjusted property EBITDA around 544 million. They repurchased $505 million worth of company stock. They're acquiring approximately 250 million of SCL stock. What's SCL? I don't know. Do you know SCL?
Uh,
I don't know what that is.
No.
It
No, I don't.
says it doesn't look like it's a ticker. It just says that they're acquiring approximately 250 million of SCL. Is that I don't know if that's what that's an acronym for. It's probably something dumb that we should know, but I don't know. I don't know what that is. Someone in the comments will be smarter than us.
Speaking of comments, do want to shout out a couple. I put them up on screen earlier. Lord Finner does bring up a good point. He says it's not a bubble when only the big players are involved.
Yeah.
Which is comparing the EV, how many people came out and said, we're going to build an EV, and then how many of those are still here?
Yeah.
They just didn't have the money, the capital, the resources. And right now, we've talked about an AI bubble, yet the conversation's been consistently NVIDIA, Tesla, Microsoft, Meta, absolute giants. The ones that surprised me was Amazon, but is that really a surprise when you think about it?
No.
Like, it might have surprised the individual, not surprising to the company. Nothing's out of characteristic there. And I think that's just a very good way to put it. Yeah, there hasn't been a bunch of I made my own chat GPT. I'm going to go public now via SPAC,
right?
And and then go.
Yeah. SCL is an acronym for scale. Thanks, Darren. I'm not quite sure I understand that either.
Did you say SE or SC?
SCL.
Oh, Steppen Company.
No, I mean, if that's what it is, no idea. But
that is a ticker.
Yeah, there was another one that I saw was like SC Motors or something like that. Anyways, not noteworthy regardless. I wouldn't think. But checking back in here on Tesla, and we can kind of get back into some of the AI discussion, and that's going to be an ongoing thing, right? Like it's just going to continue. Mike Hudson actually put in here. What's up, Mike? We're now reaching the elbow of the AI S curve, which is going to straight vertical in a year or so. I think that's a really good point because, like, I think that this AI, I don't know what to call it, revolution, next technological leap in human history, really, in my opinion, is where this is going. But if we go back to the dot-com bubble, for example, and that's kind of like the closest thing that we can really compare it to, that took 6-7 years to really kind of get to a bubble and burst. And we're barely a year into this for it to, and when I say barely a year into it, meaning that like AI just now kind of hit mainstream. And so
the conversation, at least.
Right. And so that's kind of how the internet really like the internet was around, but it didn't really hit that kind of mainstream. Everybody was talking about it. It was a household name. And so like the early to mid 90s. And so, like I can remember it clear as day where like, nobody knew what this internet thing was or what these email addresses were or what have you. And it was just kind of funny to go back and look at that kind of stuff. Some people thought that it wasn't going to be all that big, and of course, like that's how we live today is by the internet. But nevertheless, it took a long time for that to even turn into a bubble and then actually burst.
Right.
And so I would imagine, especially given the impact that AI is going to have on the world, not just from an internet perspective, but from everything. It's going to touch everything. And so I would imagine that it could take even longer for that to become an actual bubble, just because of how many different areas in the world it's going to touch. And so, just my off the top of my head type of thinking. But I really do think that it's going to be a while before we can start thinking about this as a quote unquote bubble.
Yeah, and Lisa says, "What is an S curve?" And this is it right here. Just this is how you get your new one. You get the up and coming, and then typically, if this is a company, here's your basically your IPO. Right about here, it becomes a dividend ticker. There's just no more growth. People liked Tesla because, hang on, I didn't. There we go. Tesla was supposed to be like, here's the. Oh my gosh, if this does not start, I'm going to lose it. I got the paintbrush. Like, is this messing with me right now? Because I'm gonna snap. But apparently, it doesn't want to draw anymore. Why is it bouncing around? Look at Trading View, like get confused.
Yeah, and that's what it was doing that to me yesterday too. I don't know what was going on.
I want to draw just some more S curves. I got to at least show off what man, is there at least a shape I can go? Let's do a path. There we go. So Tesla was supposed to have like an S curve like that with the automobiles, solar, Tesla bot, a bunch of S curves, which is why people like Tesla. But here's what I think the AI revolution is going to be. Here's typical S curve. There's Tesla, why a lot of people like it. Here's the S curve for AI. Here's about where the public thinks it is. Here's probably where it really is. Here's where it's going. And then its next move eventually is going to be escape velocity. And it's just going to look like this. Because humans just can't comprehend just where that thing is going. And it's just going to send it. At that point, that's complete, utter chaos.
Yeah.
Economy collapses. Everybody. I'm just kidding. That's what's keeping people up at night. I'll put it that way. If you understand exponential growth, the way it grows with a computer, that's going to happen quick.
It could almost get to a point, and Elon's touched on this too, of like utopian type of situation. It could go really, really great or really, really bad. And so, again, deeper conversation for another time. We are running out of time, so we're going to let you guys go. Thanks so much for tuning in. Shane Haley, thoughts real quick on PayPal Innovation Day tomorrow. I don't think Innovation Day is going to impact PayPal in general, but PayPal is a conversation that I would love to talk about on a different show. I'm feeling pretty good about PayPal right now, especially given where it's come from. So nevertheless, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Hit that subscribe button and be patient with us as we kind of merge everything over. For those of you on Don's channel, if you haven't subscribed to Power Zone, make sure you're doing that, because at some point, we don't have a date yet. At some point, content's probably either going to change completely on Don's channel or not be on there at all, and he's going to start something else. So it's all coming over here. Make sure you guys get your asses over, and we'll see you tomorrow. We're going to be reacting to some more earnings as well. And we're just getting started with earnings season. So I'm super pumped. Lots more to come later this month. And thanks again. Have yourselves a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.
Have a good one.